Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys are all doing well, and today, my friends, we're here with a first look at the dreaded DLC. So it is going to be Taurox facing off against Big Papa Xurthu. Actually, a pretty good matchup for Taurox because he does indeed do fire damage, and Xurthu is a big flammable tree. Now, as far as the build goes, it's going to be somewhat standard in some ways. We still do use the Ungor Spearman herds in the front line, but let's talk about the fun stuff. So firstly, we do have the Bray Shaymin of the Wild here, and he is going to be on the new chariot. So the Beastmen have two chariots. You have the Razor Gore chariot and the Tusk Gore chariot. The Tusk Gore chariot is substantially cheaper, and in my opinion, a lot better because it still has AP, just slightly less stats across the board, but it honestly only costs like 300 or 400 less. So I really think it's quite a bit better. But there have been some pretty big changes. Devolve, in terms of the Lord Magic here for the beasts, actually does indeed slow and lower combat stats. So it's really good in matchups in which you're trying to catch people. And if there's big blob fights, for example, which often happens between Beastmen cavalry and the Wood Elf cavalry. So we got that, and we do also have Traderkin. Now, I believe Traderkin was reworked as well. Before, it seemed like the damage was relatively inconsistent, but from what I've seen in this early build, Traderkin seems to do good, steady AoE damage. So we got that, plus two Tusk Gore chariots being pulled by these glorious Bacon cavalry, and you can see the stat line's pretty good. 70, 42, good combat stats, good armor. Honestly, I think these things will be a staple in many matchups. And now we're here for the big Chungus himself. It's going to be Taurox the Brass Bull. And I brought all his abilities and items. So he does have the Brass Body, which gives 40 resistance and 24 melee defense. Super good. 130 armor. So things that don't have armor piercing are just going to bounce off him like it's nothing. On top of that, he does have the Blood Beast, super heavy metal, big AoE damage, fire damage, also discourages leadership. We got the Rune Tortured Axes, which is just your generic kind of damage buff. And he's got Slaughterer's Call as well as the Blood Greed. So yeah, a lot of good stuff. His stats are pretty decent. He's got 130 armor, solid leadership, and just, yeah, he hits like a truck, man. We got the Eye of Moorsleep. Eye of Moorsleep here is very good because a lot of Wood Elf players like to bring the Lost Sylvan Knights, and it does magic damage and also has a snare. So every time you face off against the Lost Sylvan Knights, you can get some work in. And that's pretty much it. I mean, on the flanks, we got some Centaurs, including the Sons of Goros for magic damage against the Lost Sylvan Knights. And the Wargore, how could I forget? The Wargore is the new Beastman Lord, or not Lord, but hero. I didn't bring his items, but he does have an item and ability that basically buff leadership as well as, I think it gives like 4 or 5 melee defense or something, but I just wanted to bring him bare bones just to have something to fight against the Wood Elf characters. So yeah, for Dov here, Dov does have Dryads backed by Deepwood Scouts, a Branch Wraith on the far side, Xurthu in the trees, Lost Sylvan Knights, and a massive core of cavalry, mostly which is Glade Riders. Doesn't look like it's going to be heavy-duty, high-quality cavalry. So the battle is underway here. The Bray herd marches forward. Here you can see that the Razor Gore chariots, not Razor Gore, Tusk Gore chariots, shall be going into the Race of the Frozen Heart. Their leadership isn't the best, so you got to be careful with them, but they get a nice little charge here. Definitely giving the Beastmen a cheap, effective chariot, I think is very, very good. Overall, my thoughts on the DLC, I'll do a separate video here, but I think the Beastmen really came out quite a bit ahead of the Lizardmen. So big Traderkin going down. It's going to be hitting Sylvan Knights, Rates of the Frozen Heart, Glade Riders, as well as more Glade Riders. And that's a classic trick that Aerocrastic used to do to me all the time when we used to practice together. He basically sent in a chariot. I'd react thinking I had a free kill. And then suddenly this would happen, right? You get a big Traderkin, and look at the damage it does on the race, as well as the Sylvan Knights. It seems like it's consistent damage across the board now. It's like a miniature Final Transmutation. It's not quite that bad, but, you know, it's still very good. So, Taurox the Brass Bull, dodging the shots from the Deepwood Scouts right now. Deepwood Scouts do heavily lack armor piercing, and that's the thing, right? Early pre-DLC Beastmen didn't have a lot of armor, but now you're getting Taurox, you're getting these chariots. But of course, the new Beastmen monsters, which you guys will be seeing in other replays coming up, of course, do have that you know, really, really good stuff. They got the light armor that everybody loves. So here comes the Beastmen cavalry, going to be swarming in, but also big Chungus Taurox going to be moving in. And the boulder coming in from the Eye of Moorsleep should be able to pick off some cavalry, and it does. Now, my chariots are getting beaten up pretty bad here, but Taurox is coming. He is an unstoppable force. And the massive Taurox will be colliding there. Taking down that Lost Sylvan Knight despite the resistance, and all of his buffs are going to be getting popped. He's just 1-2 going through these ranks, really doing some solid damage and being incredibly durable. So yeah, I'm really a big fan of Taurox. I actually think he's quite good. I don't know if I'd say like super high tier competitive. Probably my favorite on the Beastmen right now is going to be Malagor, because Malagor is, you know, he's no longer a peacock. He can actually fly, which is crazy. So we get the big blob fight here. You can see the Tusk Gore chariots and Taurox the Brass Bull getting in there with some really, really good damage. And now we're jumping over here to go after the Glade Riders. The Traderkin plus Taurox's presence really gave us quite a big win there. And another Traderkin going down to the Dryads. While on the flanks, our spears just kind of hitting and running. And the Cygor has been throwing out of the trees, which is a little bit unfortunate, but I still feel like it's okay at the end of the day. So sweeping around with our Taurox squad, going after the Lost Sylvan Knights and these different units here. And honestly, most of the stuff that's been really effective, not too much, you know, we're not really using anything that's like new and super overpowered, right? But the Traderkin is being reworked is quite nice. And the Tuskor Chariots is just like a micro change, right? Something that helps quite a bit. It's not as big and flashy as the Jabber Scythe or the Gorgon, but yeah, it's quite cool. And don't worry, this is going to be a 2-for-1, so you guys will be getting a replay of the good old Gorgon here in the next match. So there he goes. Taurox, the Brass Bull with the brass body, giving him 40% ward save as he just rampages through these Wood Elf lines. At the end of the battle, you guys will get a duel between him and Durthu. On top of that, but the Tuskor Chariots proving to be super strong, 77 speed, moving through the Dryad units. Now we're just keeping on rolling, man. A lot of cool changes as well with art. If you actually look at the tooltips in the army selection screens, like there's been art reworks for so many units from both older and newer factions, which really adds quite a bit of spice. So here comes the duel. Taurox going in. I think he was beelining for the Branch Wraith, going for the lower hanging fruit here, but we are going to kind of get bunched up on. There is a Manticore summon, pretty far ahead in the balance of power, but the Beastmen, what I've noticed in this DLC is they often start ahead in the balance of power, but I had a couple games where I like lost, even though I was like super far ahead, and it seems like a little bit falsely inflated in some ways, but you know, that can happen sometimes in the early development stages. So here comes your boy Taurox moving in. His buffs popped? I don't think so, but 575 is pretty good. I mean, he's got more weapon strength than Durthu. He also does fire damage, so Durthu should take some really big damage from him. Because again, Durthu is weak to fire because he's a giant tree, so that extra damage will add up. We also have the War Gore back here with its 400 weapon strength beating on Durthu, so it's only a matter of time before the big tree is brought down, and the Bray Shaymin, as well as the Tuskor Chariots moving about, going after the Dryad units. And Taurox should be able to bring down Durthu. As far as his current HP pool, he's at 5,700. We should have just let them duel one-on-one. But I had a couple games essentially where, like I said, I lost when I was ahead on the bounce of power, even though, you know, my opponent Dov still has a fair amount of stuff, right? He's got some archers around here. Although, I don't know, it's looking a little bit of bare bones. It looks like all the Centaurs here were able to chase down and completely break most of those units. But here comes the Devolve, lowering melee attack and speed, which is quite nice. He's down to 4,400. Taurox really getting in there with that big old beat stick, doing almost 600 damage there with that bonus 22% from the fire. And man, look how quickly he tears him apart. I'm pretty sure Taurox actually just absolutely dominates Nakai, like just straight up world beating him. I'll have to go ahead and double check that. I did do a test and Taurox was able to beat Sigvald. I only did 3 tests and Taurox won all 3 of them, but it was really close. I feel like if you did 10, Sigvald would be able to win many of those fights. But the War Gore in there, War Gores are cool. I find that Beastmen with their new units, we'll go ahead and jump over and take a look here in just a second, have gotten a lot of new tools against like undead, and like they can stand and fight against like monstrous factions now, whereas before like Beastmen really struggled with like vampire counts, mortis engines, like big monsters, things like that. You had to rely on like Gorbel and Minotaurs with great weapons, both of which are pretty, you know, fickle. But you know, they don't get ping-ponged around. You didn't see him get ping-ponged once that entire battle. So certainly some nice changes, right? We have him with 1,800 value, pretty good. Little War Gore did his piece. The Bray Shaymin on the Chariot with Traderkin, so good. And yeah, these things only cost like 700, so it's quite a steal, right? And yeah, aside from that, it's mostly, you know, the old school stuff. And look at the art changes. So these are Glade Riders with spears. You can also see Lost Sylvan Knights got updated. Not everything, but a ton of new unit cards have been implemented into the game, which I really like. I think it adds quite a bit of spice. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. Now we're going to be jumping on over to a Gorgon replay, and that one was quite fun indeed. Round 2, baby. We're here with the Beastmen versus the Lizardmen. Dov is going to be playing Oxyotl, facing off against Malagor. He's not the peacock anymore. He actually flies. It is so goddamn awesome. So, yeah. And he also got a new Lore of Magic, a mixed Lore of Magic. So he's got a ton of good spells now. I actually think that Malagor, considering he flies and has 120 speed, will be a very common and competitive pick. Probably more so, honestly, than Taurox. Taurox is good, but he's also vulnerable against like factions that have a ton of armor-piercing powder, so you got to be careful. A little bit of hit and miss there. But as far as the build goes, it is going to be Bestigors, including Korok's Manrippers. Obviously, I played this game with my hand recovering from surgery, so you know I'm able to play, but I'm trying to do builds that aren't quite as micro-intensive here. So we have a lot of great weapon infantry. We got Ungor Raiders, 2 Tuskor Chariots, a bunch of Harpies up in the sky, because you know I didn't want your boy Malagor to be all alone up here. And oh my god, look at this shit! It is like the funniest thing in the world. But yeah, he's got Cygor Summon, Doom Enfeebling Foe, and the Manticore, not Manticore Summon, but the Flock of Doom. In the back, we have the Gorgon. The Bloodbrute Gorgon costs 2,500 gold, but much like Deathmaster Snickage, it has scaling damage. So the more injured something is, the more damage he does to it. And I really do think that Gorgons are going to be very competitive in a lot of matchups because they're fast. They have 70 speed, or 100. Wait, that can't be right. That was Malagor. Yeah, 64 speed. I knew it was like kind of in that ballpark. 572, bonus first large. They also regenerate when they're in combat. So they're not like... I hope they move that direction with like Grom the Paunch and characters like that too. I actually haven't really checked on the Greenskin nerfs to see if there were any, but he restores 8 HP per second, and on top of that, he does have that scaling damage. and they're really fast and hit super hard. So yeah, they're incredibly awesome. So as far as new units go, we do have the Flying Peacock Master Malagor. We have the Blood Brute Behemoth Gorgon, and we have 2 Tusk Gore Chariots, a very cheap chariots to try and run down like Lizardmen infantry. So for Dov, he's got these Skink Skirmishers into the Sunset with Oxyotl. Chameleon Skinks did get a cost increase, a little bit less cost effective now. It's only 50 gold, but it still adds up. But Oxyotl is just an absolute G. Now, Dov didn't bring any items, but you don't really need them too much. So as far as his items go, just to kind of summarize it for you, Oxyotl does have one item, which is like a blowpipe that does single target damage. So it's very similar to Marcus Wolfhardt's Focus Shot. And on top of that, he has the Master Ambusher, which gives him stock and unspottable. So he can shoot while he's hidden. So you have a couple cool ones. But yeah, I actually think Oxyotl will be decent. He's very cheap, and he has armor-piercing blow darts. Obviously, if you're going to be the Bane of Chaos and you don't have armor-piercing, you're going to be kind of a joke, right? So that is it. Skink Skirmishers in the backfield. Dov does have the dreaded Skink Oracle. This is the new caster character for the Lizardmen, and he can ride the Troglodon, but he can't be brought anywhere else. He has to be riding the Troglodon. So the caster has a mixed lore of magic. He's got Lore of Life, he's got Lore of Heavens, and one other one. I can't remember. I think there's like a Lore of Shadow spell. But he's got Earthblood, Harmonic Convergence, and also the Troglodon is a beautiful anti-large monster with its range attacks. Not so good in melee, but if it can sit and shoot at a distance, it can dunk on your shit. Up in the sky, Dov also has the Quaddle. The Quaddle has 2 bound spells, Lesser Chain Lightning, as well as the, I believe it's called, the Uranid's Thunderbolt. But the cool ability is Master of the Sacred Places. I don't think the Quaddle's going to be like a super competitive pick, but for like weird builds every now and then, it can have some applications. And he's mobile, it's a single entity, you guys get the picture, but he does give stock. So all units underneath him get stock, which is awesome. We got a couple of the Chameleon Stalkers. Chameleon Stalkers are the new boys on the block, and yeah, they are incredibly awesome. Poison, pretty good melee defense at 36. They have like little bolus that they throw, and that's it. Let's go ahead and party, guys. This is a great battle. You guys are in for a treat. So the Bray herd is going to be advancing up the hill, getting ready to meet the forces of the great Dov plays. Bestigors should have a pretty big advantage in the melee fight. Nothing that really has armor piercing here, and yeah, I find that you can kind of surprise people like that with Beastmen. Just bring like a big AP front line and they can do pretty well. So Razorgors, or excuse me, not used to it yet. The Tusk Gore Chariots moving in and are going to be getting kited by the Chameleon Skinks. Hopefully we can pick off a couple models, but it doesn't quite look like it. And I didn't want to overcommit because we did have Oxyotl back here and he'd be able to get his big AP dart, which he did, and things would be pretty messy. But the Gorgon lurking in the back. The Gorgon is a bit of a risky pick here, considering how much, like, oh my god, look at the damage, too, that the Skink Oracle on the Troglodon does. So he's got that big shot. Here comes another one. Let's watch the damage here. 7,000 HP, down to 6.4. God damn, that is really good. And you can bring a Feral Troglodon as well. You have the Skink Oracle and the other one. So yeah, it's really, really good. So my Bestigors do get broken down by just a torrent of cohort fire. But here on this side, you can see the Koroks Manripper is able to break through, and it looks like the Quaddle maybe was using some sort of a Chain Lightning or Uranid's Thunderbolt here. Yep, looks like the Thunderbolt was going down. But the Tuskgore Chariots have gotten in, and now we have the Monster Mash. So we have the Blood Brute Behemoth, the Gorgon ROR getting in and battling the Skink Oracle, but it does use the Harmonic Convergence. And I summon a Cygor using Malagor, who's flying around up in the sky right now, cackling like the Wicked Witch of the West. But we do drop the Cygor and should be able to get some damage on the Skink. But I realized I was kind of losing this fight. Dov does also have a Scarvet right here, which is a great anti-large character, so not terribly cost-effective. On the far side, though, Bestigor is really doing well, cutting through the Chameleon Stalkers, cutting through many of these units, and enduring quite well. And now we've got the overextension of the Skink Oracle. We got Bestigor support, and look at the damage. So we have the scaling damage on the Gorgon, which just actually got knocked over. But the Enfeebling Foe is active. If we look at the HP, we got 1,600. Let's kind of keep tabs on this. Down to, oh my god, that thing got karate chopped. Malagor coming in with the Peacock Steel Chair in the back. We get the Cygor plus the Blood Brute just hitting it on either side, and man, oh man, those Gorgons hit like trucks, which I'm so happy the Beastmen have that stuff now, right? So we are a little bit ahead in the bounce power after getting that kill there. The Ungor Raiders shooting up in the sky at the Quaddle, which is now going over to tear out my Bestigors, and yeah, it's honestly pretty cool. The Quaddle, I'm trying to think of its applications. Like, it's still a single entity. It still is pretty good at gooning. But as far as fighting other monsters go, it's a little bit lackluster in that department. But anyways, Gorgon going in, getting a big spinning attack. I think the Gorgon has some badass attack animations. Malagor also deciding to land, and looks like he remembers how to run here. Oh my god, he got slapped by the Gorgon. Did you see that? The Gorgon now trying to work on the Scarvet. Scarvet will be able to return the favor, but Gorgons do heal when they're in melee. So as I do fight here, we are getting some nice boons, and there is the Cygor summon, fighting the last of those Sora Spears. And the Koroks Manripper's doing good, trading against a couple Lizardmen infantry, while the Quaddle looking for that fight. And it's so funny, this entire time I just like wasn't even aware of where Oxyotl was. I didn't know what he was doing. He's just sitting here with his blowpipe the entire time, shooting at the Blood Brute Behemoth. And I was really curious about the damage, like why I was taking so much. Anyway, Scarvet here going in and running from the Bestigor herds. Being chased down also by the Blood Brute. Malagor just swooping in. Oh my god, it's so funny. It's such a weird thing to see, right? I mean, of course, you guys already saw it probably in the first embargo that we had, but yeah, just an absolute circus. So Blood Brute Behemoth chasing down these Saurus Spears with shields, as is Malagor the Dark Peacock. And on the backside of the battlefield, we get the Koroks Man Rippers. Just trying to screen here. This might have been a mistake a little bit, sending the Koroks in. I figured their armor would make them a little bit more durable here, but trying to get the Quaddle as well, which actually did land and tried to goon one of my chariots. Oh my god, there's some wild hog outside. But the Blood Brute Behemoth going in with its anti-large attacks, and the Quaddle can't quite escape. You can see there's some chariots in front of it. It's trying to push out 1,700 HP, down to 1,400, down to 13. Really taking quite a righteous beating. However, I've not been able to get the Blood Brute Behemoth on it, but there it goes. Doing like 800 damage with that scaling damage. It's like a giant Deathmaster. And that thing is probably going to be down for the count, if not broken, and potentially routed towards the edge of the battlefield. For some reason, I think it actually escapes here. I think it like turns around if memory serves, and we're trying our best. We have Malagor on that thing, really trying to take it down. So looking pretty grim for Dov here. The Beastmen herd has killed most of the single entities, but looking around here, we do have Oxyotl. We have a bunch of cohorts, and I believe most of his skink skirmishers here are still doing a great job. Just going for the bare bones skirmishers here, which is good. Chameleon skinks, you really benefit from having the missile resist, obviously, and also the poison melee attacks. But against Beastmen, you don't really need the missile resist, right? Like Ungor Raiders aren't going to be shooting skinks typically. So yeah, I really do like this pick from Dob, just going down to the skink skirmishers. And they're doing great, man. Look at this. The Harpies are getting wrecked. On top of that, the Tuskgore chariots are taking a substantial amount of damage there. And we'll see what happens. Yeah, they're continuing to kind of roll dirty. The Blood Brute Behemoth fighting in the pits, trying to keep it in combat so it can get healed. Oxyotl has just been a scourge this game. And he's got a ton of ammo. He's got 50 shots, which is quite a bit. I mean, he's been shooting nonstop this entire time, and he has not run out. So even though I was kind of ahead on the balance, I didn't feel like I was truly like in a dominant position. Yes, I have Malagor. I do also have the Blood Brute. I have another Cygor summon that I'm kind of saving for the fourth quarter of the game. But it felt like a very, very dicey match, to say the least. So right now, I think the Quaddle is getting shot by a couple Ungor Raiders trying to break that bad boy. It has 105 HP, and that thing's coming back. Oh man, there's going to be some really funny builds with Lizardmen too, where basically you have like a Quaddle, an Engine of the Gods, and Slans, and you're going to get so many free spells. You get 2 Chain Lightning, so you're on in Thunderbolt, a Banishment, Ruination of Cities with Mazdamundi, plus if you bring like Engine of the Gods, you get the Burning Alignment. The Wicked Witch is coming! Look at him flying! That's so funny! So he's going after the, and this is like a new thing, right, for Total War. I don't think we've ever had like an infantry-sized model that like flies around like that. Have we? I mean, I guess Tic-Tac-Toe is, but he's still considered large, whereas Malagor is infantry-sized. So will he get the kill on the Quaddle, chasing it off the edge of the battlefield? I can't have this thing coming back and getting terror routes on me in the fourth quarter of the game. And it looks like the Quaddle will be happily escorted off the edge of the battlefield, where it can, you know, go home and enjoy its life. We got some Bestigors in the distance, which I kind of forgot about. We'll do a little bit of fast forwarding while both Dob and I posture our armies. Ungor Raiders moving up, shooting at the Saurus in the back, the Saurus Spears, and we are able to get the break. And now I figured I can't run from them. They're faster than me, so let's go in and fight. We got the Koroks Man Rippers, we have the Ungor Raiders, and I believe Malagor is also going to be jumping in or just flying above and cackling, doing his thing. The Gorgon has also emerged, and it's really risky, man. Oxyotl is so good against it. On top of that, Saurus Spears back here, and Dob still has a little trickle of ammunition left on these skink skirmishers. But the Gorgon gets in there and does get a big terror route there on these skink cohorts, but so too do my Raiders. And now the game started feeling a little bit scary. I was like, oh boy. Because Oxyotl is no slouch in combat. 50, 69, you see that he knows how to live. 400 weapon strength, right? So in combat, he can definitely defeat Malagor. So I was like, I felt like Malagor can maybe cycle charge him, but in this case, we're going to have to do it the old-fashioned way. So we summoned a Cygor here, which might have been a little bit preemptive, maybe waiting till the fourth quarter would have been the way. To try and inflict army losses, or maybe doing it earlier to try and get the army losses when he was even a little bit closer. But you can see it's so close. Like if one more big bad play happens, you know, like one of these skink units or maybe Oxyotl takes a little bit of damage, it could be army losses, honestly. Like very, very close. Here comes the Gorgon moving in, running through these units. And the thing about the Gorgon that's really good is you can chase down shattered units and heal off them. So if I wanted to, I could just chase these Saurus and to like the edge of the map, and you know, could have been really degenerate about that and just like healed, right? Like just chase a shattering unit, but don't quite like follow up and kill it. And yeah, you can do some really good stuff. So like, for example, if you're in a tournament, the Gorgon could chase like some crappy routing unit and like heal up and really, really get its money's worth. But here the Bestigors do win the fight, backed up by the Flock of Doom coming in from Malagor. Cygor summon, throwing its boulders downtown. I know I'm not going to be catching the skink here, and yeah, that's that. So let's go and do a little bit of fast forwarding as both armies again reposture once again. The Gorgon being very careful, but guys, it's at 1,000 HP, and Oxyotl has 500 plus weapon strength with that little blow dart. And here it is, 700 HP. I was like, let's go for broke. We charge in, we go after the skink cohorts. Malagor comes in with the steel chair in the back, triggering leadership penalties, but Dov, very good usage of cold-blooded here. It gives leadership, keeps those skinks fighting a little bit longer. And 424, Oxyotl, is he going to get the blow dart kill? He's loading it up. Oh, he's running. He's taking some darts from the skirmishers, and now the best scores are chasing him down, doing the 360 no-scopes. Bounce of power still very much in my favor, guys, but this is a very, very dicey game. My Cygor summon is gone, and so too is the Gorgon. It is picked off by Oxyotl. So now all that the Lizardmen have is Oxyotl, but all I have is Malagor and a couple beat-ass Bestigors, which actually take a big dart and breaks our leadership. So I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. So the Bestigors pile in. The Chariot also going after Oxyotl, but he is no slouch in combat, like I said, very squishy. Like, if you're going to Spirit Leech him, or if I had like a Taurox type character, Taurox would be able to really, really do a number on him and probably tear him apart at this point. But it's Malagor. And Malagor's done great for me all game. His casting support's been good. The Cygor summons have been pretty effective, except that last one. And yeah, you know, good utility. He's also much cheaper than Taurox, I think, and you get your caster all in one boat. So shooting into the skinks here, we can't quite break them, and another cold blood going down, so the skinks moving in, going to be battling my haggard raiders, and the raiders do draw their weapons, and Malagor just pounces on that one right there and crushes it, but Oxyotl with the blow darts, I think he only has like 1 or 2 shots left. He's sitting back there, very low on ammunition. He actually has 6. Oh god, that's going to be brutal. So the skink skirmishers are shattered and broken, and now, my friends, it is time for the final battle for the fate of Middle-earth. So we do surround with the dudes here, the Ungor Raiders. I pull back with Malagor up into the sky. We pop the enfeebling foe, and he descends once again, landing, but we do miss the shot. Despite the enfeebling foe, we're not able to get it. So a lot of this will come down to the RNGesus. And here you can see the Malagor, the Dark Omen, does get popped in the face pretty hard. You know, his melee defense is 45, which isn't bad, and I'm trying to get away, but Oxyotl's really fast, 54 speed, and he's able to keep pace, and Malagor's getting slapped up. Bounce of power is coming back to the middle, and Malagor is broken. So now all I have left are my Ungor Raiders. Bounce of power is still pretty even, because again, Oxyotl, I guess, doesn't count for much on the bounce of power, but I think that's a mistake, because he is quite strong. And with that, the game is over. The Lizardmen win. Holy shit, that was probably one of the most fun games we had here in this this early run of games we played. Malagor was cool, not crazy value, but his utility was nice, right? He brings your caster, he chases things off the battlefield, he has good spells. I think he's really good. The Bestigor spam seemed okay. Like, each of them like came close to paying for itself. Raiders did okay also. I mean, honestly, everything performed. Gorgon got 2,300, didn't quite pay for itself at 25. Dov and I were actually talking before the game. I was like, you know, I don't want to bring the new stuff here, because the new Lizardmen, like Chameleons, are just going to wreck Beastmen monsters. Like, if you bring the Jabberslythe or the Gorgon, dude, you're just going to have such a bad time against them. So, but I was like, you got to bring one here, just to show you guys. But he ended up being good. You know, he killed the Troglodon, he killed the other monster as well, the Quaddle, and, you know, he had a good performance. So I was quite happy with it. But yeah, I really enjoy the new Beastmen stuff. Malagor's rework. Taurox is actually a pretty good monstrous lord. The Gorgons are amazing. Jabberslythe are a little bit more niche. They have a Mortis Engine effect, which is based on the enemy's leadership being below 50%. So Jabberslythe are good, but they're more niche. I think Jabberslythe are good against like infantry rush factions, like Chaos, like Vampire Counts, stuff like that. So you'll be seeing them all over the course of the next few days. Fear not, we will be posting replays with all that good stuff. So thanks again for joining, my friends. Take care of yourselves. Big thanks to Dov Plays and Samurai Warrior for playing all those games. Make sure to check out their channels, which will be linked in the comment section below. And aside from that, you guys take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next time. Take care.